Today we're talking about materials libraries. So this is a really good way for you to organize, especially the most frequently used materials or textures that you use when creating SketchUp floor plans, elevations, or 3D models. Okay, so that can include paint colors, wallpaper, rug patterns, generic geometric patterns, wood textures, all those different types of things. And you will find that as you create different types of plans, that there will be certain brands and finishes that you will want to use more often than others, okay? Just as a designer in your role, for example, paint companies and fabric companies, there will be certain brands that you will use more often. And it is just really useful to have a setup on your computer that's organized so that you can find those materials and apply those really quickly. I'm also going to talk about a really useful hack at the end of this tutorial when it comes to using materials that you've applied in another SketchUp file, okay? And especially when you want to just kind of use that material in another file very quickly. So the first library that I'm going to talk about is just a bog standard series of folders and subfolders on your desktop or your C drive, okay? So right here, you can see a materials library that I've set up on my computer. It's currently on my desktop. You're not really supposed to do that. You're not really supposed to save anything on your desktop because it can slow down the performance of your computer. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I have my materials library on my desktop, and I have separated that into a series of folders, subfolders. So we have art, carpet, fabric, generic patterns, metal, paint, rugs, tiles, wallpaper, and wood. There's potentially another 20 that you could probably add there when it comes to obviously the things that interior designers use to pull together their designs. But this is just an example of some of the folders that you might have within that materials library. And then obviously if I select one of these, you will see that there's more images in there. These are the actual JPEGs. I have downloaded these images from the websites usually, or sometimes from Google Images. And I would use these a lot in my floor plans, okay? And if we go into wood, you can see different wooden textures in there. So these are the textures and materials that I would use most frequently when creating floor plans and elevations. The same floor plans and elevations that you would see on Instagram, okay? And I'm just going to show you very quickly how you would apply a wallpaper from the materials library that you've saved on your computer for this elevation. So we're going to go into the materials tray, and I'm just going to make that active, and I'm going to create a new material, and I'm going to call it wallpaper. Geo, that's just, not Feo, Geo, that's just short for geometric. And then okay. I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to click this box so that I can find that wallpaper. I'm going to go into my desktop and then my materials library. I'm going to select wallpaper and I'm going to click this guy right here and then click open. Now I have already created that wallpaper texture as a seamless image. So it's very important that I point out that I have already found this wallpaper online. I have brought it into Photoshop, okay? And I have cropped it so that it is seamless. All of that has already been carried out. And now what I'm going to do is click this wall right here. That could do with being lightened. There we go. And now I've applied it. So that is a really easy way to create a library so that your materials are saved in an organized way. And it's also a great way to help you with regards to efficient workflows and saving time, especially if you have deadlines and you're running a business. We all know how hectic that can be. So this is really useful. The next thing we're going to talk about is a materials library that you can create that's actually part of the materials collection within the materials tray. So if you look right here, when I select materials, you can see all of these different types of materials that are provided by default by SketchUp. Okay, and I'm going to show you right now where they are on your computer. Okay, so when you download SketchUp and you install it into your computer, these folders of these materials, they're all filed away somewhere on your computer as well. Because if they weren't there, then they wouldn't appear right here. Okay, so they have to be all stored somewhere on your computer. And I'm going to show you where they are. And then I'm going to show you how you can add your own materials to that collection so that when you select this drop down arrow, your own materials appear as well. Okay, so what I want you to do is go into your C drive. Okay, then I want you to select program data. You might have to select, let me see, view, and then tick the box beside hidden items, because sometimes Windows will not make this instantly accessible just for security reasons, because there's very important documentation and files in here. Okay, so then we're going to go down to SketchUp, then we're going to select SketchUp 2021, then we're going to select SketchUp, and then we're going to select the folder called materials. You will be very familiar with all of these names because they are all in your materials list right here. Okay? The exact same. And if we click on one of these, you will see lots of files, and the extension of those files is SKM, which means SketchUp material. Okay? I hope you're following me okay up until this point, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to make this material, this wallpaper, a SketchUp material file. So it's going to have the same extension as this right here. And we're going to save it in a new folder within the folder, the SketchUp materials folder in the C drive. Okay, so let's break this down step by step. Let's go to our materials folder and let's create a new folder called wallpaper, and then just click off that. Okay, so there's our new folder called wallpaper. I want you to be very, very careful when you are adding new folders in this area, because this is where your SketchUp software and all the important things pertaining to that software are saved and stored. Please, please, please be very careful, okay? Because you don't want to start deleting things that you shouldn't be deleting, and then you're going to have to uninstall and then reinstall if you discover that you're having problems with your SketchUp software. So please, please, please be careful. Okay, that's all I want to say. So there's our folder called wallpaper. Now what we're going to do is go to this wallpaper material in our materials tray. So we're going to go back to in model and we're going to look for that wallpaper. There it is right there. I'm going to right click that and I'm going to select save as. You can instantly see that the extension of that material is now .skm, which is SketchUp material. And we're going to change the name of it to Wallpaper Geo. You can instantly see that Windows has already suggested where to save that, which is just the last folder that we've just created, which is wallpaper. If that didn't come up for whatever reason, you would have to go to your C drive, your program data, SketchUp, SketchUp 2021, SketchUp, materials, and then choose wallpaper, okay? But because Windows has remembered the last location, it's come up automatically. And then we're going to select save. Now, if we go into our drop down arrow and go to materials, you can see that folder that we created. There it is right there. It's called Wallpaper. If we click on that, well, look at that. There's the wallpaper that we just saved. Now, just to show you that this does work. Okay, so there's a new, let's just pretend that's a new wall. Let's click on that and let's click there. Boom. Okay. Now, it is super efficient. There is no doubt about that. And it's so good for, as I said, colors, paint colors especially, fabrics and wallpaper and wooden textures that you use a lot. It is a really good way to make your whole workflow very efficient when it comes to finding and applying those frequently used materials. But guys, please remember that this is the area on your C drive where your software for SketchUp is stored, and you need to tread carefully. If you are nervous about saving and creating folders and saving SketchUp materials to this area, you could always use a different area of your computer, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. Just for those of you that are a little bit nervous about using the area of your computer where SketchUp is saved. Now, I want to reiterate that at the start of this tutorial, I showed you a materials library that I created on my computer. These materials are JPEGs, okay? These are JPEGs. The custom SketchUp materials library that I'm going to show you how to create now consists of SketchUp materials. Okay, so there is a difference. So this materials library that I saved on my computer consists of JPEGs. Then I showed you how to add to the SketchUp materials collection in here by going to the C drive where all of these are stored and then adding your own folders of SketchUp materials. Now I'm going to show you how to do that in a different location if you are concerned about potentially deleting things in that area where SketchUp is saved on your computer. And I have to say, this is quite similar to the library components that I showed you how to create in course 3. But instead of components, we're using SketchUp materials, okay? So basically what we're going to do is create a folder on our computer, and then we're just going to create a collection. And, you know, this should ring a bell if you've taken course 3 and created your own components library. So what we're going to do is go into my desktop, and we're going to, I know, don't look at it, it's a mess. And then I'm going to create a new folder called Custom SketchUp Materials. Okay, and then I'm going to create subfolders of the different categories of SketchUp materials that I might require. So we're going to have wallpaper and paint and fabric. You know, just you will know the categories that come to mind that you require for this purpose. And then what I'm going to do, okay, so I have that set up and I'm ready to go. What I need to do is now start adding my SketchUp materials to those folders or those subfolders. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the wallpaper again, okay? So I'm going to go into In Model, and I'm going to look for that material. There it is right there. I'm going to right click. I'm going to select Save As. You can see that we have our .skm file extension, which means SketchUp material. I'm going to name this material Wallpaper Geo. And then I'm going to look for my new custom SketchUp materials library. So where have I got that? There it is. And then I'm going to select the wallpaper folder and I'm going to save that. Now, what we need to do is create a collection in this area right here. So when I click this drop down, we want to create a collection so that we have direct access to those materials. And the way you do that is by clicking this arrow. And then open or create a collection. And then we're going to choose the custom SketchUp materials and then click select folder. And there you go, guys. There's the folders. There's the custom SketchUp materials. If I click this drop down, you can see that it's now added at the bottom. And if I click wallpapers, there is the SketchUp material that we saved. And if I click on that and click here, for example, there it is. And when I hover over this, you will see a little label that says Apex WP. That's because the original material that I used to create that was this one, and that's what it was called originally, okay? Because I went into InModel and I saved that as a SketchUp. There it is right there. I saved that as a SketchUp material and then I put it in the folder for custom SketchUp materials. So that's why that label is appearing now that I have applied it to this area right here. Okay, I just wanted to explain that. So at the minute, you can actually see that there's actually a wallpaper category under materials. That is in the C drive where the SketchUp software has been saved. So I just want to discuss this again to make sure that you are aware of the differences here. It's very important that you are aware of this. So there it is right there. Okay, so that is in the C drive. If you select your drop down arrow and the custom materials that you've created are within this list, it means that it's in the C drive. If it's down below this line, it means that it's a collection that you have created in a different part of your computer. And if you don't have anything here, but you do have a collection and they're JPEGs, then it's a library that you've created on your computer that consists of JPEGs that you can then use in your SketchUp files. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions or you need something clarified, please leave a comment below. I will be only too happy to help you with any queries that you have. And the one last thing I wanted to discuss, which is a really quick hack, is that sometimes you need a material or a texture or a pattern or a wallpaper and you know you've used it in another SketchUp file, but you haven't had the time to add it to your library, whether it's a JPEG library or a SketchUp material library. You know, in the real world, we have deadlines, we're under pressure, and sometimes we need to grab our materials and our textures very quickly. So what I'm going to do is open up the SketchUp file where I know that material is. In this instance, it's this wallpaper. I'm going to select the rectangle tool. I'm going to create a small rectangle on that wall. I'm going to double click, make it into a group, go to edit and then copy, and then go back into my original SketchUp file, edit and then paste. And I'm just going to hover over that face and then click. I'm going to go into my materials tray. I'm going to select the sample paint tool. I'm going to click on the face of that rectangle and then click my wall. And hey presto, there it is. Anyway, I'm just going to undo that. That's just a quick way to use a material that you've used in another SketchUp file, but you haven't had the time to add it to any of your libraries. Guys, I hope that helps. If you have any other questions about SketchUp, whether it's certain drawing tools or techniques or workflows, please leave me a comment. I'm only too happy to create video tutorials to help you guys. See you later.